Timothy from FS Securities. We are an education and information firm on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And every Monday morning I go through what happened globally around the world and try to forecast what we may see this coming weeks. I'll show you how investors and traders can make money on our stock market and also the global markets. I'll show you what is hot and what is not, and what you should hold and what you should fold. And by the way, if you have any feedback, we would really appreciate to hear from you. Well, over the weekend and from around the globe, we start with the Dow. We've seen the Dow going up. Look, 829 points, 3.2%, back on very good employment figures. When the economists expected about 20% unemployment rate, well, it came down to 13.3 from the 14% previous number. Well, okay, so we've seen here, that's how the Dow finished. The S&P 500 also had a good day, 2.6% up, and the Nasdaq was up 2%. And by the way, the Nasdaq was also up 1.3% the day before, 43% drop. But then look, you add those two numbers together and you can see that the market over the last 3 trading days had spectacular performance in the United States. Looking at Europe, the Stoxx 50 index, which comprises most major European markets, was up nearly 4%. And if you look at the previous 2 days, we also had a good end of the week for Europe. The FTSE 100 index was up 2.3% to 6,484. The DAX in Germany up 3.4%, 12,847. The Nikkei had a good day as well on Friday, 0.7% higher. And the Shanghai index in China, 0.5% to 4,001 index. On our market, look, we had 76 points on Wednesday. We had 95 points drop on Thursday and only 6.9% rise on Friday. And by the way, the futures indicating that the most likely possibility that, by the way, Monday, it's the Queen's birthday in Australia and the market is shut in Sydney and Melbourne. And we expect on Tuesday, provided nothing happens in America tonight, Monday night, we expect that the index will give us a very good start on Tuesday morning. Gold had a major drop below 1700. It's been over 1700 for a number of days, but now look, $44 that's $44 drop on Saturday morning. That's per ounce, US per ounce, 2.6% down. Silver also had 3.2% down, but look, silver has performed better than gold for the previous 2 days. Copper had a good day, and Brent oil 6% up to $42.30. And West Texas crude oil also another 5.7% higher. Oil is up and up and up and away. Soybeans, because we like to look at soybeans because of the trade between China and the US. And by the way, China buys a lot of soybeans from the United States. And recently they said, well, we're not buying from you guys, we're going to Brazil because of what America is saying about Hong Kong and what China is doing to Hong Kong. Okay, the US dollar, when we look at our Australian dollar, trading very close to 70, we were down below 65 only a few weeks ago. We had a good week for the Australian dollar. It's trading 61.7 euro cents, 55.01 British pence, and 108 New Zealand. Now looking over the last 2 weeks, this is those 2 columns here. That's what happened last week over the full week. And then we like to see if we put the 2 weeks together, how the performance of last week in relation to 2 weeks together. So you can see here the US market last week was good and the week before was good as well. So together we've got 10.8% rise in the Dow, and thanks to the global company, especially with Microsoft and Apple, they are really very big contributors to the Dow. Okay, and the Nasdaq had 5.3% over 2 weeks. Most of it came last week. And when it comes to the S&P 500, nearly 5% last week and 8% over 2 weeks. The volatility index, which is the fear index, keeps dropping. So that's a very good sign. But still 24. When it gets to 30 and 40, we are worried that, the fear gauge is starting to build up. You can see here the US dollar has dropped nearly 3% over 2 weeks. And the Australian dollar had nearly 7% rise over 2 weeks. The euro is also strong, and that's the reason why the US is weaker. And the sterling also was stronger. In terms of commodities, we can see that last week gold dropped $54.40 US per ounce, down to 1688. And however, you can see that the week before we had 8% rise. So, but anyway, over 2 weeks, gold dropped $46 US, and now we are heading down to below the 1700, and we most likely continue to see the gold dropping below 1700 for a number of days at least. Silver, 5% drop last week. However, only less than 1% drop over 2 weeks. And West Texas crude oil, 10% drop last week, 16% drop over 2 weeks. That's a rise, rise. 10% rise last week, 16% rise over 2 weeks. And soybeans, still, even though the drop last Friday, we can see that soybeans is still on the rise. And if you're interested to trade any of these commodities, all you have to do is talk to us. And as a matter of interest, Bitcoin was trading at 9,585 this morning. And that was actually a rise of $140 US over the last week. And that, by the way, converts to approximately 13,750 Australian dollars. And that's also, remember, only a few days ago, it was trading above the 15,000 Australian dollars. Okay, looking at the chart, that's the Dow. We had the apex, the top ever points, which was nearly 29,300, I think, for memory, dropping to above 18,000 early in the year, recovering at least 50% of it, and zoom up, retracing all the way up to 61.8 Fibonacci retracement, and look what it is at the moment. As I mentioned to you last Saturday, we are very bullish on the Dow, and we're not going to be surprised to see the Dow hitting the all-time high of 29,000 between now and the election time in November. Thank you, Mr. Trump. Rabbits out of the hat, Mr. Trump. Okay, and this is the daily. You can see that the stochastic, the blue line here over the red or the orange, bullish above the 80% line, that's bullish. The parabolic stop and reverse, bullish, that's the red dots. 9-day moving average above the black 21-day moving average, that's bullish as well, hitting the all-time high of the Bollinger Band. So that Bollinger Band is actually indication that we are really up and away. And by the way, the volume, as you can see here, the volume that the bar has been very high volume on the upside on the last day of trading. Our mechanical system, this is actually when we look at the changes at the end of the week, and that's every day we change these forecasts. So at the end of the week, not this last Saturday, but the Saturday before, we said also that we were very strong on the Nasdaq, and we continue to be very strong on the Nasdaq at the end of this week. And on Saturday, again, that hasn't changed, except the Dow went slightly more bullish for the conservative trader. But we picked up those signals very early in the week. Remember, this is 2 Saturdays ago, and these are daily. That's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Or I should say Friday trading, which is Saturday morning our time, Friday morning our time, and Thursday morning our time. When we've seen the market still very strong in America. And when it came to gold, last 2 Saturdays ago, we started to say, well, we are neutral for the very aggressive and the conservative trader. We remain bullish for the investor, the long term. But look what happened during the week. We started to turn bearish for the very aggressive trader well early in the week. However, the investor continued to be bullish. The investor is actually who trades month over month. However, on Friday morning, or I should say Saturday morning, we started to see a change for the investor as well. Remember, the indicators from where these forecasts are produced rely on indicators. And for the investor, we have very slow changing indicators because we look at the monthly and the weekly. When for the aggressive trader, we look at weekly and daily. So the changes here happen a lot sooner than the investor. But the investor is someone who actually buys and waits for months, while the very aggressive trader, he may only wait for a few hours or only a few days. So remember that. So we have different strategy for different type of investors and traders. Okay, when you look at our market, again, almost the same as America. From the high to the bottom, we hit 4,463, and I think I don't expect to see that level anytime soon. I think we are heading upwards, and I wouldn't be surprised that we're going to copy the US market. But here we've got with the Fibonacci retracement, we did not go to the 50% as soon as the Dow did. We hovered around the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement, up, down, then crossed over, and then went above the 50-day 50% retracement. That's the weekly. We went above it. However, at the end of the week, we dropped below it. I would not be surprised that early this week we might see our market hitting above the 50% retracement. And the question is, will it go higher and higher, or will actually find the 50% retracement as a ceiling for the time being? That's very possible. We might see a rise and then drop, because it will take some fundamental factors on the economy into consideration. Now, remember, the unemployment rate in America dropped slightly on Saturday morning, when all the economists expected that the unemployment rate will be all-time high at nearly 20%, when it didn't happen. Well, what about our unemployment figures? We probably see about 8 or 9%, maybe 10% unemployment figures when we see the figures. But anyway, on the daily, the stochastic is bullish, still bullish above the 80% line. The parabolic stop and reverse, represented by those red dots, bullish because they are below the candles. Last Friday, we see a drop in the market. And obviously we can see that the 9-day moving average above the 21-day moving average, and that is of course very bullish as well. Looking at our market 1 week over 2 weeks, our market gauge, which is ASX 200, is made up to a certain extent by two major sectors, the financial and the materials. When both of these sectors are up considerably or down considerably, usually the whole market follows suit. Not necessarily every sector, but usually the case it is. So the last 2 weeks we've seen the ASX 200, our gauge, up 9%, 4% last week and 5% the week before. 2 very positive weeks. And again, thanks to the financial, the banks started to push up. The banks were actually down for quite a while. Last week was up 7%, and look what happened the week before. 12% rise the week before. So the banks, the financial sector is very, very strong, and the material sector also strong, but not as strong as the financial. And you can see here the material sector up 3.2% and 5% overall over 2 weeks. So 2 weeks of very positive performance on our Australian market. Well, let's have a look at the banks here. Look, ANZ was up nearly 30% over 2 weeks. Are you trading ANZ? We told you several weeks ago we were very positive on the banks. We knew that sooner or later they will come good. CBA 17%, not as good as ANZ, but still very good performance, hitting $63.75. And NAB, like ANZ, 27% higher over 2 weeks. And finally Westpac, 25%. ANZ is actually the best performer. Last week, again 10%, 7% ANZ, 9.4% NAB, and nearly 9% for Westpac. And Suncorp did very well as well. And look at Macquarie Bank. Again, Macquarie Bank had also a good 2 weeks. When it comes to the material sectors, BHP, nearly 6% over 2 weeks. Rio, nearly 8% over 2 weeks. Woodside Petroleum, 5.5. Santos had better performance than Woodside Petroleum. Okay, across the top stocks, the best performing stock over the full week for some of the major companies were Worley and ANZ. 11% or 10.5%. And AMP, by the way, was also up 9.8%. I really need to mention that as well. Worst performing stock, TPM, down 7%, 7.2%, and Newcrest Mine was down 5%, and Bramble down 4% last week. Bramble down 12% or 13% over 2 weeks. Okay, now in the mechanical system, these are the sectors. That's the week by week. We do that at the end of the week. So 2 weeks ago, that's what we said. This is last Saturday, but that's the Saturday before. And during the week, we've seen that we were right with the All Ordinary. We were right with the consumer discretionary, with the energy. We were also bearish on the consumer staples. We started the week bearish as well. That's Wednesday. But on Thursday morning, we turned neutral. And on Friday morning, we turned bullish. And at the end of the week, we ended up bullish as well. Okay, and these are actually our performance expectation forecast based on technical analysis. Looking at the stocks, well, here we've got that's the weekly. Last 2 Saturdays ago, we said that we were very strong on Newcrest Mine, and obviously that was not correct. We were actually bearish on Woolworths, and as a matter of interest, over the full week, Woolworths was up 5%, and we said we were bullish on TPM, and TPM was down 7%. We said to you that we were bullish for Newcrest Mines. That's on Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, and Newcrest Mine was down 5% over the week. So again, these were based on indicators from 2 weeks ago. However, during the very last week, things actually changed. And so these are the figures at the end of the week, and of course had major influence about what happened on Friday and Thursday and Wednesday, well beyond Monday or Saturday mornings 2 Saturdays ago. Okay, well, in terms of the daily, what we expect today, this is actually this morning. We are bearish on nucleus mines. Obviously the indicators are showing that, by the way. And we are bullish on most stocks, but the biggest one is BHP and Rio and TCL, that's Transurban, and West Farmers. All the others are bullish for the aggressive trader and the very aggressive trader. Look at the volume over last week, and by the way, these are advances over declines, and most days we're actually seeing advances more than declines. And with the exception of Friday, the volume was going up and up and up and up and up, and on Friday the market decided to take a bit of a breather, but still above 3 billion transactions per day. And week on week we can see that advances exceeded declines. So again, that's bullish. And by the way, on Saturday morning, or I should say at the end of our trading on Friday, the best performance, the most active on Friday was actually Bank of Queensland, was up nearly 9%. Sydney Airport, Suncorp, Vicinity Centres, Boral, where all these companies were actually on the upside. And we tried to actually scan the market to see which stock over the full week had excessive volume above the 50-week average volume. So for instance, in here, there was nothing, by the way, for the top 50. However, when we look at the mid-cap, this company, Infigen, for instance, the price was up 36%. And look at the volume. Usually week on week we see 10.2 million transactions, and last week we've seen 130 million transactions, and the price went up from 60 cents to 81.5 cents. That's nearly 36% rise. Is it worthwhile looking at it? Well, the first thing we're going to do this morning is to see whether all these companies, because they are mid caps, we can trade them on CFD market, the leverage market. If we can't see them on the CMC CFD market, we're probably going to really look for other companies. So that's actually the scan that we do. We look for volume. Which stock has exceeded the average volume? In this case, the weekly volume, and that is actually the last week volume. And then we compare the price rise, and then we actually grade them according to the highest percentage rise in volume to the lowest. Now looking at the daily, we find that on the top 50, Vicinity Centres, Sydney Airport had 6% rise in the price on Friday and had 54% rise in the volume, from 12.2 million to 18.8 million. So these are the stuff that really triggers our interest to go further and look for those companies and do the research and produce some papers, and we put them on our picks on the website. And for the mid-cap, Bellevue Gold, this continues to go higher and higher, but unfortunately we cannot trade it on the CFD market. But this company has appeared on our scan for the last five consecutive days. It has been going up and up and up and up. And all these companies again had rise in the volume and rise in the price. Okay, finally, look at the company that had the highest 52-week high last week. These companies are available. The highest, these are the 52-week highs, and the 52-week low. And by the way, we're going to put this presentation on our website very shortly. And then I want to finalize, show you what we are trading in our CMC CFD market. And you can see here we're making some very good profit on ANZ Bank, and we're making some very good profit on Westpac. We're making some money on Boral, but we're losing a bit of money on Flexi Group. Okay, everything we said today for you is actually of general advice only. And before you take any action, we suggest very strongly that you talk to us or you talk to your professional advisor. And before you take any action, remember, there is risk, and we cannot guarantee that anything we said is going to turn good because there are too many variables. But from our technical analysis and our fundamental analysis, we believe there is a good chance, no guarantee, that what we see from the technical indicators, we might see a little bit of success. Our indicators sometimes give us 60 to 80% probability of success. If you have any questions, by the way, all you have to do is ask. And who are you going to ask? You can write to me at george@FS Securities, plural. FS stands for full service. george@fssecurities.com.au. If you ring my mobile, and I'm available 7 days a week, nearly 10 to 11 hours every day, of course when I'm not playing tennis and when I'm not playing bridge, when I'm not playing whatever, and you ring 61 for the country code, you don't need the 0. 61 for the country code 411-259526. 61-411-259526. And if you are local, 0411-259526. Finally, happy trading, and I hope you make some money this week. And you can always ring us up and talk to us if you wish.